I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. I am a huge fan of tribute bands. Today's Someone You Should Know podcast guest has probably one of the most difficult part of any tribute band out there because he has the role of what many consider to be one of the greatest rock drummers of all time. That man was the late, great Neil Peart of the band Rush. And my guest is in an incredible tribute band called the Rush Experience. Will you please welcome my new friend, Vince Tricarico? Vince, welcome aboard.
Rick, thanks for having me.
Vince, when I was on the radio, I used to tell listeners, I said it's going to be a great show because I got some Rush coming up. I've been a huge fan of Rush for years. Their song, "The Spirit of Radio," was my anthem for many, many decades, and actually featured pretty prominently in my final air shift. Uh, why do you think Rush was such a successful band? It wasn't necessarily for the critics, but I think it was the fans, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I stumbled into Rush pretty late in the game. And I had been playing the drums for, probably 4 or 5 years and listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin.
Mhm.
So, we talked about this before we came on. When John Bonham died, I couldn't pick it up and listen to it at all. And I was over at a friend's house and I was not quite even in high school. And he says, "You need to hear this drummer." And he puts on "Working Man Finding My Way" from All the World to Stage. He goes, "Listen to this drum solo." And I heard that drum solo and it was game on for me. I mean, I could not stop listening to Rush. And as I'm saddened now, even still, in the passing of Neil Peart, it was Neil Peart that helped me get over the passing of my first drum hero, John Bonham. It's
Wow.
kind of an ironic twist of fate.
Yeah, it's just the oddest thing because he went through hell after his daughter died and then his wife died, and he just took off on his motorcycle and toured all over North America for a while until he can get his head straight. And by the way, that can be found in his book called Ghostwriter, which I read, and it's a dark, dark book because he talks about his depression uh, and did you ever read the book, Vince?
Okay, this is great. I love playing Neil Peart's parts, but personally, I'm probably completely opposite of the guy.
Okay, very
I'm not
good.
a voracious reader. I don't really like to ride motorcycles that much, and boy, I'm happy drinking a Budweiser. So a lot of fans get the scotch that people bring me sometimes at gigs. It's
Oh
really
yeah,
funny.
yeah, and
I'm not that deep of a thinker, and I'm the
he's
most
definitely a top shelf Scotch guy too.
yeah, yeah, I'm the most unoriginal drummer you're going to talk to today, or maybe ever.
Well, like I said, you have probably one of the most difficult jobs of all time. Neil Peart, considered the professor, considered like to be one of the top three drummers of all time behind John Bonham, and right up there with Keith Moon. And when you think of that, does it intimidate you at all that you're emanating one of the greatest drummers of all time?
So I've been playing in Rush tributes since 2013, and I don't get a stage fright or nervous when I go on stage because as a musician, for me, being on stage is what it's all about. I mean, it's I love that. You don't have to wait for the book to come out or the movie to come out. The song
Hmm.
ends, boom, and you know immediately if somebody likes it or not. So I remember playing our first gig as a Rush tribute years and years ago, and I told my wife, I said, I'm a little nervous. And I said, when people go see Rush, I think they're really going. Initially, they were going to see Neil Peart play. I know I was, and then to see him pull all this stuff off. So I was intimidated. She said something to me that night. She goes, "Vince, there's probably 10 better drummers than you in the audience tonight, but you managed to find a group of guys, put it together, and get out on stage and play it." And that kind of changed my attitude and any fears that I may have had by just like, I'm just grateful to be up here doing this and playing the music that I love the most. And that's Rush.
Very
I mean,
good.
I
And
really, it's pretty much all I listen to.
is it
Now,
challenging
even
though
now.
because they're noted for having such long songs? If you go back to Cygnus X1 and 2112 and such, you've got songs that are 15, 18 minutes long. We used to call them bathroom break songs, but
Sure. Yeah.
that's a
Well,
lot of and especially your role as the drummer, that's a hell of a workout.
yeah. Well, I think what brought me to Neil Peart is that he actually played live what he recorded. I'd go see bands, growing up, and I would know some of the songs. The drummer would just be back there bashing away. But I mean, if I heard something on a record that really tickled my fancy, I couldn't wait to get to a concert to see him do it. And of course, there's no YouTube or little videos from iPhones in the audience. So that's what drew me to Neil Peart. And for me, I remember learning natural science, and I'm going, how in the world am I going to remember all the fills? With the parts of the song are number one. There's lots of different movements throughout that song. Olivia Strangiato, the same thing. But how am I going to remember to do this? Because I want to do it as best I can, hit for hit, the way he does it.
And from what I heard, it was letter perfect. I'll tell you about that a little bit later in the show. Let's talk about the other members of your band. Who plays the role of Alex Lifeson?
Yeah, Burke Hunn. And the Rush Experience is a new band. Burke joined this band in March of this year.
Really?
I've known David, or Geddy Lee, for about 14 months. So I wanted to get out and play more. So I decided to put this band together because two friends knew two other guys. We talked about it. And I mean, you're seeing a band that's not even a year out playing. And Burke is he fixes amplifiers.
Okay.
He's a technician. He builds amplifiers, works on amps. His biggest client is Eric Johnson.
Oh, good Lord.
Worked with a lot of guys. So he has a great skill set of what needs to sound the way it sounds, on top of being a huge Rush fan. David, again, was introduced to me by a buddy about a year, like I said, about 14 months ago. We had a couple of conversations, and he is, again, equally a huge Rush fan. So it's easy when you're playing with a bunch of guys that are really top flight musicians. First, there's a lot of guys I've met over the years that love Rush, but from here to here, it's just not happening.
Absolutely. That was my tale as far as playing the piano. I could read the notes, but I could not make the music.
Yeah.
And you have to have that, and especially a band that is considered to have players that are considered to be, the top of the list. You got Alex Lifeson, who many people consider a virtuoso, and you got David playing the role of Geddy Lee, who is a great bassist, but those vocals are very challenging. I mean, I think one of the funniest things I ever heard was to describe Geddy Lee as a cat going out the pet door with this blowtorch up its ass. It's one of those strange voices and such. Can he hit those high notes?
Oh yeah, I
don't think there was anything challenging the night you guys played, but I just know some of the early Rush. I mean, that's way up there.
Lakeside Park. I mean, so we're that's currently in our show, and that is a screamer, and he just nails it. In fact, I remember when we were putting the song together, I had to bring his vocals down in my ears because he can just project that stuff and just kill it. I mean, and we're constantly fooling around with all of the Hemisphere suite. So that may happen at some point in the future. We just play the whole Hemispheres record, and he's like, I think I can do this. But he will not go out and do on the stage unless he can nail it. That's the kind of his approach.
That's got to be hard on the vocal cords, though, as far as that's really stretching those vocal cords. And I imagine he really doesn't talk much afterwards, does he?
Well, I mean, the guy he's a soft-spoken guy in real life. He doesn't smoke or drink, so he's not hurting himself that way. And but he just gets out there and just lets it go. He doesn't do a whole lot of warming up. He's just a natural vocalist. But I think knowing the music and knowing the cool thing that Geddy does that a lot of people miss out is the way he enunciates words when he's singing, and that's half the battle. And I think David is so versed and knowledgeable and studied Geddy for all these years that it's just kind of natural for him,
Very good.
To coin a phrase, second nature, kind of cheesy, but he does a great job at, because Geddy will say the and the
Mhm.
sometimes. It happens in the song Limelight. And when you say when he says the, it's like hitting your thumb with a hammer. It sticks
Oh,
out.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah. There's
exactly.
little nuances to their music that I pick up on.
Now, this is the thing that I really and truly want to ask you about. Neil Peart, known for having perhaps one of the most elaborate drum kits of all time, with I think it was over 30 pieces, including cowbells and glockenspiels, and
Yeah.
you have a kit that's very similar to that, don't you?
It is a one-to-one replica. It is exactly the same. So the acoustic kit out front is made exactly to the R30 specifications with regard to the way the shells are matched up and the
Mhm,
way the different plies are put together. It's a 22-inch kick. The candy apple red is my callback to his red kit he had on the Signals Grace and Power Windows tour.
mhm.
But I've been a big fan of DW, not even really because of Neil Peart, because Neil Peart sounds like Neil Peart. It's like Eddie Van Halen by guitar, but Joe Travers, when he played with Zappa Play Zappa, when that came out in like in 2009 or something like that, I heard that recording and those DW drums. I needed an excuse to buy one. I was in a Rush tribute band. So that's the main kit. During the lockdowns, we're all at the house and kind of bored. So I called a buddy of mine, John Douglas, who is currently drumming in Aerosmith, but he's
Oh,
also
jeez.
he's Joey Kramer's drum tech. So he kind
Oh
of
my
took over for
god.
Joey, and he's also Alex Van Halen's drum tech.
Oh my goodness.
And he's worked with ZZ Top. He painted all the drums for Frank Beard and so on and so forth. So I called him, and because he's an artist, I told him what I want to do. He put me in touch with Garrison at DW, and I called Garrison and told him I wanted to make the back drum kit, with the electronic kit behind it. So being a fan of the Candy Apple Red, I'm also a big fan of Neil's Snakes and Arrows kit. So I talked to him. It was great. He gets on his computer, starts to hear this click, 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 and he pulls up Neil Peart's invoice
Mhm.
from the Snakes and Arrows tour. And he goes, I got it. And he just made me to the exact specs. So when the kit rotates, it's exactly what Neil was playing on the Snakes and Arrows tour.
What is the total number of pieces in that? Not including the stands, but the actual number of drums
Yeah.
you've got there.
Oh, so we got 4 rack toms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 acoustic, 12 acoustic drums with the back snare. And then the V kit, the virtual kit behind, I think is kick, snare, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 electronic Roland V pads in the DW shells.
Mhm.
And Lauren Wheaton came up with that idea, Neil's tech, and I've had the pleasure of spending several afternoons with him just before the COVID thing hit in 2019. He invited us backstage for when he was touring with Kiss,
Mhm.
and he was teching for Eric Singer. So I got a lot of time to talk to him about hardware. And there's a lot of specific things that I've replicated exactly the way he and Neil came up with on the stage kit.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Now,
got
there's also a glockenspiel in there too, right?
it's a mallet cat.
Mallet, okay. Mm.
Yep. And grateful for the folks at Alternate Mode for that artist accommodation, Connie and Mario. So that's the same thing that Neil, again, remember I told you I'm not that original at all, not
Mhm.
original.
I love it.
So yeah,
How long does it take to mic something like that?
yeah. So when I built the riser myself, the Octagon, okay, and then I had a buddy of mine who is very handy and into engineering, and he came up with the motor and how much torque I needed and all this kind of stuff. But the deck of the riser is hardwired. So what you
Mhm.
don't see underneath is a stage box, and everything's already plugged in. And on the top of the stage, the riser deck, are XLR inputs for the microphones. There's 20 microphones on the kit,
Jeez.
and then there's 18 quarter-inch TRS inputs for all the triggers.
Oh, gee.
So to answer, a short answer to a long-winded answer to your short question, there's no mic cable or any cable is longer than 8 feet. So it takes 20 minutes to set the riser up.
Jeez, that's it?
Yep, and then it's about a total time about an hour and 50 minutes. But I have 2 guys that help me.
Jeez, that's
So
incredible.
yeah,
Absolutely incredible.
and that's the deal. The only way to do this at this scale is you got to get in and you got to get out.
Yeah, that's just it.
Yeah.
That's
And
just it just floors me
our
because I
contract
saw him
writers,
running around during the show numerous
yeah,
times, and it was like,
yeah.
look,
Well, what unfortunately, what you saw in Hobart and on that little run we did out to Illinois after we were done, I had to bring my C kit. Okay, so you saw my part of my rehearsal kit that I have, which is also DW collectors, but it's in the broken glass sparkly. And that was because there were two stages that couldn't accommodate the full
I
rotating line.
imagine, yeah, yeah. The Art Theater is an older venue, and that used to be the one I used to go to when I was a kid to watch movies. I remember seeing Fiddler on the Roof and Tora Tora
Oh,
Tora there, and Planet of the Apes, and all
well,
those things.
well, we also discovered when we were playing that theater that there was a 20-foot ramp backstage left that we could have put up on the front of that stage and we could have rolled everything up there. So we'll come back there. And when we do, we'll bring the full stage kit, the rotating kit, because
And
the stage was fine. It was
I got to tell you, the people that
massive.
I talked to after the show, I mean, it was like if you closed your eyes, you were teleported back in the 70s.
Well,
It
thank
just
you.
really and truly was something special. I said the only thing missing was clothes dryers, a vending machine, snack vending machine, and silk kimonos. That was the only thing that was missing from the gig,
I don't think anybody wants to see Silk come up us, man. I'm telling you. Just go back and relive that back of that 2020, 2112 record.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Put it on us now.
Yeah.
We'll be out of business.
Yeah. Now, before we continue with our interview with Vince Carrico, I want to say thanks so much for tuning into the Someone You Should Know podcast. We're heard wherever streaming audio is available and also on the web at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast.com. There you're going to find our recent news, our archive of past episodes, and a whole lot more. And if you've been enjoying the podcast, we invite you to leave a real nice comment, okay? According to Buzzsprout, the service that shares us to all the different streaming audio places. We are so very blessed to reach over 1,900 cities in 85 countries around the world. And since Rush's home province is Ontario, Canada, I'd like to salute these cities in Ontario, Canada: London, Markham, Midland, Millbrook, Ottawa, Scarborough, Thunder Bay, and Toronto, eh? Thanks for listening to the Someone You Should Know podcast. Once again, heard wherever quality audio is available. And now back to our interview with Vince Tricarico from the band Rush Experience. Neil Peart once said in an interview that Tom Sawyer was one of the most difficult songs to play. What is your thoughts on all the Rush songs that you have to play?
Yeah. Well, I think probably for him, Tom Sawyer is definitely hard. And the reason why it's so hard, and a lot of people probably don't, though a lot of the drummers probably know it, is that it's actually a slow tempo. And I think it's like 96 beats per minute. But when you're playing those 16ths over top of it the whole time, and it's pretty unrelenting. I mean, it is the world is when you kind of get a chance to
Mhm.
rest because you can kind of slow down. But to stay on top of it, Neil Peart, is not a pocket drummer. When you listen to those records, you play along with those records, you might kind of want to slide back and maybe do a little Phil Collins Genesis or even Bonham get in the pocket. He's not in the pocket. The guy was always on top.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it hard. That's what makes it hard, staying in the moment. And that's definitely a hard song to play. Natural Science is hard. It's the same thing. It's fast, it's moving along, but then you couple it with a lot of different parts and a lot of different time changes, time signature changes, and the moods kind of go up and down. Other hard songs, I think. I remember in a previous project saying, I need a resting song, something you can kind of just, catch your breath on. I said, let's play Time Stands Still.
Hmm.
That song is brutal. I mean, that song is moving along. I thought that song was moving along. A song where you can rest and really catch your breath is The Analog Kid. That's a
Uh-huh.
song, it's just a rock song, just pretty
Hmm.
much in four. And you can just kind of chill out and kick back in that song and rest. But yeah, Neil Peart, he loved that song. And like he said, he goes, I'll never, ever get tired of playing that song from the day I played it back on the Moving Pictures tour till the end. And he changed it around a little bit when he changed the configuration of his kit, because he couldn't do what he did on that video we all love from Les Studio.
Hmm.
when all of a sudden the ride cymbal moves over where a 15-inch tom-tom used to be. So that's always a big challenge for me. And I like the modern 1996 all the way out to the end Neil Peart setup. After he did the stuff with Freddie Gruber and moved the
Right.
ride back.
And that's the one thing about Neil Peart. I mean, here's a guy that's basically a virtuoso, but still always trying to improve himself. And
So impressive.
it just absolutely floors me. I mean, that's a consummate professional right there. You're always
So
trying to better yourself, you know.
that guy was so humble. And when he, could have been like, "Hey, I'm Neil Peart," but I just never since that. I got to go backstage with Rush a lot. We'll talk about that if you want to,
Sure.
and see those guys sound check. But for him, after the Counterparts tour to say, he was kind of feeling stale and like he's just kind of going through the motions and stops and goes and takes drum lessons after seeing Steve Smith play at these Burning for Buddy tributes he was doing. I mean, that is amazing. It is truly amazing that he never stopped wanting to learn. Oh, and that was the way the guy lived his life. Could have been
He was, like I say, a voracious reader. He was
yeah.
always reading something, and it's just an interesting guy. But he was always afraid, not necessarily afraid, but he was always uncomfortable talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
That's why
Yep.
he didn't do anything backstage as far as that goes. He always let
Yep.
Alex and Ged do all the meet and greets and stuff like that. And people say, "Well, I wanted to meet Neil Peart," and it's like,
Yeah.
well, he doesn't do that. He just doesn't do that. And he apologized for it. He says, "I just feel embarrassed." He says, "I don't want to live that lifestyle. As far as I am very happy just riding my motorcycle from gig to gig rather than being on a bus or being on a plane." And that says a lot about him. He's just a deep introverted kind of guy. And
Yeah. Yeah. I remember we were backstage on the Vapor Trails tour, and I was talking, my friend and I, Jack Secret is who would always invite us back. And we were standing talking to Getty and Alex, and um, they're getting ready to come out and sound check. And I had just been in his drum set because Jack walked me around checking it all out.
mhm,
And this is 2002. I wasn't playing in a Rush tribute band at the time. I wish I was. I would have done more, research and development. But I remember he came out and he was standing with Lauren. He glances over at me and my friend talking to Getty and Al, and you could sense that he was, yeah. There's two people I don't recognize, and and it was definitely a different vibe, going on there. He just made him uncomfortable from what he said,
yeah.
he's what has he said? He goes, I don't mind somebody's fantasy, but I don't want to be in it. Is what he
Right. Yeah.
said.
I have a hard time understanding because I know there's some individuals who really and truly want to, I want to know where he lives at. I want to,
Yeah,
eat what he eats, does all that particular thing. It's like, no, you know,
yeah,
and people often ask me as far as with the people that I interview, it says, "Don't you want to get autographs and stuff like that?" I'm not into that. I'd rather just do the one-on-one talking. And
yeah.
I got so blessed. I was working for the All Star Radio Network for 19 years, and it was my job to interview all the celebrities and then cut up the audio and send it out to all the different radio stations
Mm-hmm,
to where
mm-hmm.
it sounded like they were actually interviewing the celebrities and such. And I was the lucky guy that got to do that. And uh, you know, people ask me, said, "Well, when'd you get an autograph? Get an autograph photo." I don't do that. I just don't. And they said, "Well, you're
Yeah,
missing out on." No, no, it's just not me. It's just not me.
yeah, yeah,
I like doing
yeah.
what I do. I respect the individual that I talk to. I try to get as much information I can about the individual before I even open the microphone. And I always like to set them at ease as far as that goes. Try to find a common bond that we have. In our case here, it's the music of Rush. What would you say growing up was your favorite Rush song to listen to? What was your favorite?
Uh, they could play Help Us
It's just
Dolly.
like
I'd probably.
naming your favorite kid type thing. What was it?
Well, the first album I bought in real time when it
Mhm,
was Moving Pictures,
mhm,
and I love the camera eye. I mean, so I would listen to that song over and over again. Hemispheres, when I finally got my young teenage head around Hemispheres. Again, not so much the story, but all the movements of the Cygnus X1 Book 2. That it was is that's my desert island record. I
mhm.
never get tired of listening to that album. So I would say hemispheres, and the longer songs. I like the longer drawn out songs. It's funny. Everybody talks moving pictures, but Jacob's Ladder is probably my favorite song that we play live, because it's incredibly difficult and there's lots of different movements through it. And Natural Science, so I like that kind of stuff.
My favorite is a long one too, Xanadu from
Oh, forget. Of course, I forgot that.
That's like
Yes.
12 minutes long. A good bathroom break song, as I always like to say.
Yes.
No,
That's
just
great.
No, it's just an all-around great song. It's just one of those things. And uh is that a song that you guys play?
We're looking to do it.
Because it's so complex with all the different things, and you've got the bells back there, or the chimes, and back there.
But see, the way when I play those longer songs, you kind of break them up into sections. Like Natural Science is blazing along, and that song's over before you know it. Same thing with Xanadu. You just kind of break it up, and before you know it, it's over. But we hope to add that we're adding. We play all of Moving Pictures with the exception of Witch Hunt and The Camera Eye. So we're finishing that up, because in January we're going to do a couple of gigs where, spoiler alert, we're going to this podcast will be gone by then. It'll be out after January. So we're going to play all of Moving Pictures in its entirety.
Oh, wonderful. That's great. That's great, because that's probably one of the most recognized of all of their albums and such. Personally, Vapor Trails is one of my favorites.
I do too. I like that record too, because it was because of what it meant, what it stood for, the comeback. And there's just a ton of music on that album.
Oh yeah, Secret Touch is one of my favorites.
We're adding that.
Yeah,
we're gonna play that. You'll see that next time we come out your way.
Awesome, great. Well, I'll have to hang with you guys next time you come out there.
Absolutely, yeah, man.
Now let's talk about preparation. As far as how do you decide on the set list, and how do you do your rehearsing to ensure that you capture the essence of Rush music?
Yeah. So David comes up with a set list because he has to sing it.
Yeah.
And he does a great job. I mean, of tying songs together, because we're covering. 1 minute we're playing "Turn the Page," which is probably our deepest track, which is on "Hold Your Fire," and then we'll go into Lakeside Park. And then we'll play. So we're going all over the place. So he kind of comes up with that to kind of try to make the show flow. We play territories. Not many folks are out doing territories, and so we got to kind of put that in a good spot, because that might be a moment where somebody wants to hear Red Barchetta or Free Will. But we're gonna do the stuff. We're gonna play we call them the girlfriend songs. The lovely ladies that get dragged to Rush concerts with their boyfriends and husbands, and they know Tom Sawyer, Red Barchetta, Limelight,
Closer to Your Heart,
that sort of stuff. But to keep us interested, we play Manhattan Project and we play Scars.
Yeah, Scars. Yeah.
See Scars, you didn't get to see Red Lenses, because that's on the back rotating drum set. So we do some deeper stuff for ourselves, and you would totally dig it, because you're a total hardcore Rush fan, and they are aware of it.
Oh yeah, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's I mean, there's so much stuff out there that I really and truly would. I think I've got a great collection of Rush stuff. I asked Santa, and I got a copy of Ged's book. And so that's a brand new thing. And by the way, if you haven't checked it out, if you are a Rush fan, if you haven't checked it out, Paramount Plus has got like a 4-episode thing of Geddy hanging with other bassists. It's something really cool on Paramount Plus. Look that up. And the question I have for you, this is that Tales from the Road. We talked about this before we actually started the interview. This is those infamous road stories where things didn't go quite as planned. Think Spinal Tap. Have you had any of that, even with your previous band? Any moments like that, Vince?
How about November the 9th of this year? So I do all the advancing of the shows when we have a gig booked, and then I'll usually call a week before. I send the production manager they get a copy of our rider, and then they get a copy of our tech specification sheet, what we require, stage plot, what the stage is going to look like, and then our input list. and then I'll follow up with a phone call and say, do I need anything? Do I need to know anything about the load in? Okay, because that's the deal. We're very efficient, but I need to know the load. And so this guy's like, we're playing this little theater outside of Philly, and it's like, yeah, there's a side door entrance with access right to the stage. I'm like, fantastic, that's great. We drive up there. This theater is in a very older community, a wonderful, beautiful theater. That place was sold. It was 20 people short of a sellout. We get there on the side door is like down a sidewalk, which is probably 24 inches wide. This theater is built probably in the 30s. The door was 4 feet tall, and it was you go in the door, you go left up 3 steps to get to where the seats are, and then a 4-foot stage. We had no access to the front of the stage. That was just a month, 45 days ago. And we sat there by the truck, because my drum riser is in 2 pieces, and it's 8 feet long by 4 feet and a half on a trolley that's 6 inches tall. It rolls beautifully. We had to back the truck up in the front of the venue and extend the ramp off my truck onto like the deck. They had like a 6-step walk up to the lobby entrance of this theater. I didn't think the show was going to go on. Yeah. For 45 minutes, we pondered how to get the gear into the venue. And then we had to take that drum riser and push it up on the stage. Brutal. But you know what? We made doors, and we made our start time, and we rocked that place.
Show must go on.
Everybody had a blast.
Absolutely. That's a good
one. The whole time I'm playing, I'm going, oh man, I got to push this thing off the front of the stage. So we did it, man. But wow, that was the
only thing missing was snow,
Yeah, exactly. And it was, so yeah, Tales from the Road. That was the trickiest of any gig I've ever played.
Jeez, that's pretty wild.
Now, it happened just recently.
We mentioned this a little earlier, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening right now going, can you tell us some more backstage moments? So if you would, could you share a couple more backstage moments with Ged and Alex?
Oh yeah. So growing up, I had a buddy of mine who worked for a music store here in where I live. And the owner of this music store was a longtime friend of Geddy and Alex and all the guys in Rush. And it was on the Presto tour. He invited my buddy to come along, and I went along also. So the first time I'm walking into the local hockey rink, in town where Rush was playing, and I'll never forget this. You talk about little things that bring back the memory. The second I walked in the venue, the track for the opening of Force 10 was playing. So just that choral sound of the voices singing, and the lights are going all around, and I'm like, holy mackerel, this is happening. So we go in there, and Jack took us around. Jack Secret is Geddy Lee's longtime keyboard tech, and you know that name. And he's been with Rush probably since they started headlining on maybe the Farewell to Kings tour.
Jack Secret, something like that.
Yeah, and Jack Secret and Geddy Lee, I mean, a lot of people probably realize this, are really responsible for inventing MIDI, musical instrument digital interface where a lot of computer and keyboards could talk to one another. Geddy wanted to be able to play his Moog Taurus pedals and be able to trigger his Oberheim synthesizer. And he and Jack figured that out. So Jack would always tell us and give us go over in great detail how the show worked. So I got to see everything, got to get up in Neil's drum sets and look at the drum kits over the years and over the different tours. So those are the great backstage stories. When the first time I spoke with Alex, it was, hey dude, keep it together. Just keep this together, because these are my heroes.
Oh, I know. Absolutely. And
they didn't
Alex is such a cut up too.
Oh yeah, he was great. I mean, back on the Presto tour, and I was also Roll the Bones and a couple others. Those guys would actually, when they would sound check, they'd actually sit there and jam. Towards the end, Vapor Trails and R30, they just run through a couple songs and they're out. I was backstage on the R40 tour. They were working through some songs, but back then they would jam, and I'll never forget when they finished doing the sound check, Alex was playing something very reminiscent of the intro to Territories. You know, dun, 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 you know, those little cool. And I asked him, I said, well, that was kind of like Territories, you know, and he's like, yeah, that did sound like Territories, didn't it? So we had some cool moments where I talked to him of things that reminded me of them. I told him also, it said Open Secrets off of Hold Your Fire. I said, Alex, I think that solo is the best solo you've ever done. It is just fantastic. He's like, yeah, that was a pretty good solo. Yeah, they forget, you know, it's their work. They don't know.
You think if in their case they think of La Villa Strangiata or something like that, as far as, because that's kind of his, you know, his epic piece.
Sure. Agreed. Yeah.
And
I, you know, go back and listen to that guitar solo on Open Secrets. I also asked Alex on the Vapor Trails tour, I said, hey, now that we have the advent of DVDs, why don't you guys go back and re-release Exit Stage Left? But now you could put all of, because they played Natural Science on that tour. They played all of the Camera Eye, you know, Vital Signs, all the songs that wouldn't fit on a VHS. And he told me, hey guys, we lost all that footage. We don't even know where it is.
You know, I forgot about how good Vital Signs was until you guys played it, and it's like, oh my God, I'm going. It's been so long since I heard that. I mean, granted, I'm so familiar with Moving Pictures.
Yeah,
that was a great album, and you did a great job on Red Barchetta too, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah, that's it. Those
of course, YYZ, it's still one of my favorites as far as that goes. But hey, let's talk about your social links. As far as I know, you've got to be touring all over 2024. What is the best way for people to find you?
I think Facebook, you know, just look up the Rush Experience. It's there. I'm so horrible at social media. You know, I don't have so much bandwidth. If something doesn't work, man, I check out. But our website, it's, you know, the website's up there, and if you just Google the Rush Experience, I think it's the first thing that pops up. You know, that's really how we communicate. I stay out pretty active on Facebook. I use it pretty much just for the band and constantly pushing stuff out, and also little history lessons like we're talking about here. I like to share stuff with people that
exactly famous memories and such. You know, I gotta reach back here just a second.
Yeah.
I got this for Christmas. I think it was last year or the year before last. Do you have this? This is the entire Rush. And this is every show that they did. And it is a coffee table book that weighs a ton. It's great for crushing spiders.
It weighs more than the coffee table.
It is just one of those books. It's just, people have such wonderful memories. I remember seeing Rush back in '76, and I paid $5 for the ticket or something. Like your fans talk. When I was on the radio, I get a lot of people know that I loved Rush, and in my final show, one of my final songs I played was "The Spirit of Radio." And I had a couple of people say that it actually brought them to tears because they knew that was Rick saying goodbye. And because anytime they heard it on the radio, you know, I'd chime up afterward going, God, I love that song. So everybody knew that was a song that connected them to me and everything. But that is just something else. There's just so many great memories, and you can reach them out on Facebook and a variety of things. I'm going to have it down in the show notes, everybody. So if you are looking to reach Vince and the band and find out what their tour dates are for 2024, I would highly recommend you do there. We're going to wrap up the show with kind of a real nice thing that you guys had on YouTube. It's a sample of what you would expect if you wound up going to a Rush Experience show. Can you tell us a little bit about the songs that are featured in there?
Is that you talking about the little promo video?
Yeah, the promo video that starts off with I think it starts off with Limelight.
Yeah, well, it's called Don't Bore Us, Get to the Chorus.
Oh, so YYZ leads it off. That's right. I forgot.
Yeah. So really that's just a quick mashup to, we would use that before we started playing live. If you go to our YouTube channel, there's a dozens of live videos. And so that's really for like an agency or a buyer for a venue that wants to see the band real quick. And you just give them a little hit of Limelight and, you know, Red Barchetta. I think there's the Tom Sawyer drum thing is in there. Everybody wants to do that, and they do it well on the steering wheel in the car, you know. But that's just a quick little mashup. Is a little taste. No one's going to watch that 4-minute video. We've cut that thing down to 60 seconds and 90 seconds because it's really a promotional tool to get a venue interested in booking the band.
Well, also for the Rush fans, as far as because
Sure.
there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of Rush tribute bands out there, but this one here is one that you definitely want to check out. I have seen several other ones, and they're good, but I think you guys just brought it up a level. I mean, it just
Thanks. Yeah.
it really and truly, like I said before, I talked to individuals at the Hobart Art Theater in Hobart, Indiana, and it is they basically said you close your eyes and it sounded like you were transported back to the 2112 tour, or maybe part of the well, definitely the moving pictures tour. You know,
Well,
just
that's,
close your eyes and it was just like being there.
yeah,
Especially yeah,
that's special.
especially with the songs that you didn't recognize all that much, and it's like, oh my God, I forgot how good that song is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is the best compliment, because we really work hard. I mean, I um you know play this stuff after listening and listening and listening very fast. I was in a band one long time ago, and we were opening for Blue Oyster Cult. When Jack Secret was not on tour with Rush, he would go out and tech and support Blue Oyster Cult. And it was in between Presto and the recording sessions for Roll the Bones. We
Mhm.
bump into one another at this venue, and I'm like, "Oh my, what are you doing here?" I just saw him 6 weeks ago at the end of the Presto tour, and he told me quickly. He's like, "There's been big changes in the drum department. I can't tell you anything more about that." Okay, so Roll the Bones comes out months later, and I hear the song Bravado. And when Neil gets to that middle section, he goes
Mhm.
doo doo. He hit right for that. I knew immediately he had moved floor tom under his hi hat. So those are the little things,
The little
because there's no
nuances,
way
yeah,
he could.
yeah.
There wasn't one there in the previous kits. So those are the things that I do, and
Mhm.
the other guys in the band do. We listen. There's so many little nuances to Neil Peart. Neil
Mhm.
Peart will start a drum fill many times, and he'll lead the drum fill with a quick tap on his ride cymbal.
Mhm.
It's all over Spirit of Radio, but some guy will bash a big crash cymbal, and so it's those little things.
Yeah,
So
those little
that's
nuances,
what
yeah.
people remember, that because they come and they listen to these guys play their instruments like the record. So
And
so I'm
that's
grateful when people say that, because that means the work I'm putting in and all the listening I'm doing is translating.
and by the way, your drum solo was spot on, man. It was really good.
Well, that's another thing. I hate doing the drum solo. I'm constantly trying to talk myself out of it. It's been overdone, but I decided that Dave was like, "Vince, you can't go to a Rush show without a drum solo." So I started to knit together different parts of Neil's solos over
Mhm.
the years
Yeah.
and play it like a song, so people recognize it. If I got up there and start just doing a bunch of nonsense, my own stuff that has nothing to do with Rush, they came out to see a Rush show.
Mhm.
So that's why you have
Exactly, and the way you had it all triggered with, all
all the horns.
the horns and everything, that was
Yep, I
just
did the same. So there's parts that he did exactly on the R30 tour, the Count Basie shout chorus at the very end, the
yeah,
horn section, the little ostinato 3/4, things he does with a tambourine with the left foot. There's the opening snare drum wipeout riff that's on Exit Stage Left and YYZ, Momo's Dance Party, Pieces of Eight, parts of Scars. It's fun. It's
yeah.
fun when it works,
Yeah,
but
well, it worked, it definitely worked when
it's scary.
we saw you in December. It was just a fabulous show, and I
Yeah.
highly recommend if they happen to be in your neighborhood. Well, hell, if they happen to be within 500 miles, go go see them. They're just that good, and we really and truly am so glad to have you on the show, Vince, because
Rick, thanks,
I,
man.
I just absolutely was blown away when I saw you. I was like, God, I got to get in touch with these guys because I am just absolutely. I actually had chill bumps on my arms. It was that good.
Wow, man. I mean, that's just awesome. Thank you so much. I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful. And we get to go out and play. And, 2 weeks we'll be at the House of Blues down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And then we're booked pretty solid all the way through March. So, and then, after the holidays is when things get active. So we're going to be heading up to the Northeast, I think, more into the New Hampshire, Connecticut area. We're going to be back out in Michigan, very near you. We're going to be in Paw,
Paw,
Michigan.
Michigan. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll find you and we'll go
Yeah,
for a couple of beers, okay?
that'll be in August.
All right, man. Well, God bless you, brother. Great having you
You
on the
too,
show.
man.
And thanks again for being on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
Thank you for reaching out. Happy holidays. Thanks, everybody.